Okay, apologies everyone, but we do have to try and keep to time. Okay, so our next speaker up is Rob Lindsay from the University of Liverpool. And Rob is going to talk to us today about a pathway to personalised learning, engaging with custom, I'm going to get this right, GPTs. I almost get that the wrong way
That's the one,
around.
Phil. That's perfect. Thank you very much. My chat isn't working, so I'm going to post a link to the Padlet in the Q&A. So if anyone wants to follow along with any of the resources from this, feel free to use that. It's a beautiful sunny day in Liverpool. We've just had the bells in the cathedral for graduation as well. So there's thousands of people outside. And Jane, I won a competition with Vivox where they said you could win a coffee voucher at the Alt conference. So very much a fan, but we use PebblePad here at Liverpool. Both similar, but also appreciate what they do. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you for having me, Phil. I'm here today to talk about the pathway to personalised learning and engaging with the custom GPTs. Now, I know that this throws up all sorts of considerations for, what personalised learning is, where are we getting with generative AI as a technology. So hopefully I'll address some of those. And it's a pathway because we're definitely not there yet. These technologies, they get better every sort of model that they upgrade, but still with plenty of inherent flaws in them. So feel free to scan that link or click on the Padlet link, and what you will have is access to everything that I'm going to talk about in 10 minutes. So basically the scene setting here, the last model upgrade, GPT-4 Omni from OpenAI, impressed me quite significantly because what we had was, this is Salman Imran Khan, the CEO of Khan Academy. In this video, which you can click on the link, he demonstrates live engagement with an iPad. And what his son Imran is doing is working through a maths problem using a pen as input with multimodal learning. So the ChatGPT model is talking back to him as he's working through this problem. As you'll see on the sort of diagram, he's got the pen, he's trying to work out where the adjacent is on the angle, on the triangle, sorry. And he's talking through as he does so and being spoken back to. So he's talking through his thinking, he's talking through his reasoning. The ChatGPT model is talking back to him, guiding him, giving him instruction. And the reason I'm sort of flagging this up is because for me, this is where the sort of personalization of learning is going and where perhaps we can best engage our students next year or in the years to come. So the model around that is generally around sort of real-time assessment. So he is being assessed as he works. It's giving him feedback on his performance, telling him where he might be going right or wrong. There's a sort of dynamic and personalized approach to that. So it's responding to him as an individual student. It's talking him through what he needs to do or what he needs to consider, much as we might do as educators or tutors or, just mentors, whatever we're doing with these students, we're trying to work with them to their needs. And that's a great way of doing things. And the engagement and support along the way is, again, to sort of prompt him, to encourage him, giving him that feedback to make him feel confident in where he might be doing well and where he can perhaps do better. So what has this all got to do with custom GPTs, I hear you ask? Well, custom GPTs, for those that aren't familiar, they're a sort of version of GPT that you can build yourself within the OpenAI model. Now, you can do this on the paid plan. You need a paid account to do this. So actually, at Liverpool, we operate on a sort of departmental license where we have a license within our department and we work collaboratively with colleagues to build these up and then deploy them. And I'll just give you an idea of some of the sort of ones that we've been doing so far so you get an idea of how they work. And the reason I like them in terms of the personalization of learning is because really they can be used to contextualize learning. And I often try and sort of share this with an analogy about sheep. And it always falls on its head, but the sheep see these as sort of information points. So if your sheep are out in the fields, you don't know where they are, you don't know how to find them. If we can ring fence them in the original sort of term of putting livestock to a smaller environment, we can find them a bit more quickly. Now, that might not be suitable in some contexts and some disciplines for learning, but it does work in some ways. And one of the ways that it works that we've looked at is in terms of seeking out information. And as usual, everything that underpins generative AI should consider the privacy laws and, what are the rights of the individual and the user and the information that we're putting into these systems. Who owns the data when we sort of use these tools? Am I breaching copyright by using it in this way? Consider that every time you create one of these tools that I'll show you how to in a minute. And also, what's the sort of ethics around this? The sustainable use. Can I do this in a more sustainable way? Is the power consumption of this right? Are we looking at the human labor cost to build these tools? Are there more ethical versions of them? This is something that we try and underpin within all of our teaching and learning as well as we discuss these models. So just to give you an idea of some of the sort of tools we've used them for, and this might interest individuals as educators, as administrators. It depends what your role is within the institutions we work in education. But For those of us that are familiar with COPAs, Phil, I can see you on screen. Have you got a COPA at Kent, the Code of Practice on Assessment? You don't have to answer that.
Sorry, Rob, I was just dealing with something else. Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry to call on it. It's only because I can only see. But the Code of Practice on Assessment, what it is for those that work in the assessment area on policy, it's hundreds of pages of assessment guidelines. And it can be seriously frustrating to try and work through that because you've got to find the information you're looking for. The curriculum alignment model, I'll show you that in a second as well. And then the research ethics tool. That's a 472-page document that we work with. But the reason that I'm talking about these now, and what I'll do is bring up the chat just to see that everyone's sort of following along in a degree. This is the Padlet that we're working from. So the COPA Navigator, what we're looking at here is we've built this around our actual Code of Practice on Assessment, which is the large and extensive document that covers the assessment policy at Liverpool. Now, with this one, you'll see it's COPA Navigator because it's a custom GPT. So it only focuses on Liverpool. It's not going to draw on Kent or any other institution and give me information about them. I've been very specific in telling it to focus on that. I've asked it a question. What's the penalty, for a 5-day submission? And it's given me the answer. And just to sort of prove I've not made that up, I'll put it in again. I've done this just for the sake of time. But what it will also do, which is quite nice, is I've asked it to refer to the actual Code of Practice itself. So you'll see it pulls up the actual information and it pulls up the part of that from 6.2, which is correct. That's the right point of that. So that's just one example where we've used, an existing document, a way to engage with it. It's free to access. So colleagues that might come to us as the digital team with a query, we can actually point them to that and it will help them with that information more quickly. The curriculum aligner model is slightly different. And what we've done with this one is upload our strategy documents and our educational framework. And then we've deployed it to students that are designing programs that we're asking, okay, if we want students to be engaged through more active learning, can we ask this tool to help them design their model or their program and modules more effectively? Now, again, it's something we would normally do with staff, but in this instance, we're asking them to use this as a tool. And what you'll see from that, we've asked them, where can I improve the active learning elements within this module? I've uploaded the module itself. It's given me some active learning strategies. And then what I can then do is go from that and engage further with it and teasing out more ideas from it. So that's 2 ideas. And all I'm doing here is setting the scene for why we're doing this in terms of the student learning side of things. And so what we've done is developed an integrated skills development module for dentistry as an example. And I'll just bring up my PowerPoint again to show you the sort of things we're doing within that. So what we're looking at within this is students to be able to develop study tips and strategies using it, understanding course material, practical exercises and scenarios, coursework and exam preparation, and looking for recommendations and professional guidance. So we've built this GPT using the information that's on the module. So it's the handbook, it's the teaching content, it's everything that we have the copyright to. We haven't put in information that isn't ours, but it's everything that's built up in that module. Not to replace the actual teaching, as Becky and Summer's presentation will touch on next, I believe. I hope I haven't sort of gone against what they're saying, but actually just to support that learning process. And students can give their profile, so they can explain what they perhaps consider their strengths and weaknesses. They can talk about where they're based. They can talk about their work aspirations. And in light of that, what the GPT will do is then react to their input. So in this instance, I've come to it and said that I'm struggling with understanding a certain concept. Can you help me with this material? And what it's done is given me different steps to then work through that process. It also can then role play, which is quite nice. So further down, I've asked it for example exercises in clinical situations. And again, this is all built up on the program. It's not taking general information. It's taking CLC1, which is the sort of first level undergraduate program for dentistry at Liverpool. It's built around that. And so actually they can access it and know that they're focusing on what they will be studying in the lectures and in their clinical skills placements. And the role play example you'll see at the bottom, it requires a bit of going back and forth with the prompt to get working, but you'll see you can get it working here where I've asked it to role play this scenario. It's come to me as a patient with pain in the lower right jaw. It's given itself a name. And from there on, I can now start to ask questions and act as I am as a dentist. So I'm already getting that process of being in a clinical situation, perhaps without having to do it, to start with. I'm just practicing there. So I've got a few minutes left. So I'll just show you that the process for creating these GPTs is really very simple. As I said, it does need one account for the actual building of them, but you can do it with one educator, developer, academic developer or colleague. And to do so within your GPT area, if you have the paid plan, you go to the My GPT section here and then create a GPT. And it's as simple as, and I'm very happy to, talk about this in more depth for people that haven't done it. I configure, so you give it a name, or you can actually talk through how you build it. So you could just say, I want to build a first year's clinical skills developer. And what it will do is say, brilliant, how about this for a picture? What information would you like to put into it? And we've got some really interesting questions I can see popping up about things like accuracy. What we found with the COPA and the curriculum aligner, which is why we started with something, this is proof of concept for now. We don't ask colleagues to use this as their first port of call. We just are showing that it can work. We will still work with them directly and with our academic quality standards division. But what we're going to begin to do now as next steps is deploy with a small group of students where we're happy to do so, evaluate it in a way that actually it can't negatively impact their learning at all. Pilot studies, look at how we can do this with good ethics and research guidance, and look to how we can build those GPTs, deploy them and get feedback on them to then refine them. The accuracy from them has been brilliant. It refers to the actual information it's given. The ones I've shared with you are only built on information that we have the copyright to, so don't worry about that. I'm not sharing anything that anyone else owns. And I think I'll just end with 3 minutes to go on, if you're thinking about something like this, there's a lot of considerations, but how might you use this in your learning environment? It's quite a simple process, but we're working with students to understand how they work, the information they get back from them, the strengths and the weaknesses of them. And again, they're free to access for the students. So we're not putting a barrier into anything in terms of their access. And the Padlet, again, I'll share this with all my slides. This has everything in it. So if you want to have a go yourself, just click on one of these links. We've also got a prompt creator from Mark at University of Central Lancashire, which was fantastic. So if you're looking to develop a prompt around this, try this. I thoroughly recommend that. And it will get you to develop your prompts so they work very quickly. I've got a poll there as well. So if anyone's using it, you're welcome to have a go on that. We can see that some people are using them from the OpenAI collection, which is here. So these exist independently as well. But today the focus was on how to build them in the My GPT section. So Phil, I've covered quite a lot there. Very happy. If you want to put more questions afterwards on the Padlet, I'll answer everything, or take a couple now if you like. But thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rob. You are a pro. Well done. So we've got about 2 minutes left. If it's okay, I just wanted to ask maybe one question, and then if we could move to the questions in the chat, just so we can keep the time in the agenda. And I guess one question, I just wanted to ask this on behalf of, we have lots of people here today, and some people just might not know as much as others. So how would students access these GPTs? Where do they go? Where do you put them? How do they actually access them?
So we would first of all build it into part of a teaching program whereby we work with them on everything else to do with using generative AI. It wouldn't be a case of sending them a link. With them, you can actually control the privacy of each one in the My GPTs area. So I can create it so that it's only available to me, so no one else is using it, or anyone with a link can use it. So the ones that I've shared today, anyone with a link can use it. I can turn off data sharing so it doesn't train the model. That's what I've done. So any data put into it isn't going up to train the model. There's a concern around that. And also because we use a departmental account, we don't share any data with any of the models as well. And you'll see that at the bottom of our information here. So CI workplaces aren't used to train models. What we would like to do really is get student access as widely as possible so that they can use every version of this and build them themselves, actually, because if they can build it so that it suits their learning need, we're getting to that personalization.
Absolutely. And you are bang on time. I could ask you so many more questions, and I know that lots of people in the chat could as well, but I'm so sorry, but we'll have to move on in order to keep to the agenda. So if you do have a question for Rob, please place it in the chat or the Q&A, sorry. But also just link to what Rob was saying. If you're using AI in any way, maybe stick an example in the chat or something like that as well, so other people can see what you've been doing, because I think that's always nice as well. So yeah, that would be great. Thank you.